And good evening. It's sunny here in Aberdeen, South Dakota. I heard it's kind of rainy and yucky in other parts of our state. My name is Amy Sapunik. I'm the South Dakota Deaf-Blind Project Director. Thank you all for attending tonight's webinar, The Impact of Raising a Child with Deaf-Blindness on the Family, the Power of Your Story. I'm happy to have Megan Cody here to facilitate and share her knowledge. And we have two very special moms with us tonight, Kristen Knudsen and Jenny Miller. Welcome. But before we get started, a few housekeeping notes. During the presentation, if you could keep your cameras off and your mic muted, and it will aid in the efficiency of the internet. Feel free to put comments and questions in the chat. And a survey will be sent, and I'll put the link in the chat as well. So I would appreciate it if you take the time afterwards to fill it out. Thanks so much and enjoy. It should be a fun evening.
Well, hi, everybody. As Amy said, my name is Megan Cody, and I'm honored to be with you tonight or this afternoon, depending on the time zone that you're in, to talk to you guys a little bit more about the impact of deaf-blindness on a family and also the power of telling your story. I really hope to just spend some time framing your thinking, whether you're a professional that's on the call tonight or a family member, around just the overall importance of empowering families to see their child in the context of the whole family. But then really it's about moving quickly away from me and into our featured people tonight that have been so brave to come and share their stories with you, Kristen and Jenny. I owe them a huge amount of gratitude for being willing to raise their hands and say they would come forward, put themselves in a position to reflect on their lives and be vulnerable to share their lived experiences thus far with you guys tonight. Move the slide here. So whether you're a service provider or a family member, one of the most important things you need to think about is the question, what's your why? This involves acting from the inside out to let people know your motivation or purpose, which is your why, your process, in other words, excuse me, your process, in other words, specific actions you've taken to realize your why, and your result. In other words, your what do you do, and what is the result of your why? So let me practice this with you to familiarize you a little bit about myself. My why is that I truly believe that all children can learn and that they all deserve a right to a full life where they can live, work, and play in their community. I also truly believe, from my head to my toes, that when you empower a family member to understand their loved one with deaf-blindness and their unique needs, that enables them to advocate not only for their loved one, but also for themselves. And then good things happen not only for the child, but for the family as a whole. So my how, believe it or not, this is my 30th year in education. So I told Amy at the start of the training I had to put some mascara on today to make myself look more alert for this training. Thanks to my mom and dad, really, for taking me seriously. When I was in 3rd grade, I went over to play at a friend's house, and she had a brother that I didn't know she even had, and he was sitting in her kitchen in a wheelchair. And at the time, I didn't know what was going on, but now as an adult with training, I can tell you he had severe cerebral palsy. He was non-ambulatory, non-verbal. He had a trach and a G-tube. And I just thought he was the most amazing human being I've ever seen. So quickly and steadfastly, I formed a friendship and a relationship with him and pretend like I wanted to go hang out with my friend when really I just wanted to get access to spending time with her brother. He was at the time going to a school that was called Crippled Children's Nursery School at Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City, Missouri. So that gives you an idea as to how long ago it truly was, because now schools would never be called that. But it was a phenomenal early intervention school for kids with significant disabilities. And I volunteered there every opportunity and every chance I could, and never looked back. Then I went on to do my undergraduate degree in educational psychology and went on to graduate school at the University of Kansas to get my master's degree in severe multiple disabilities and deaf-blindness. Since that time, I've been teaching in public schools, working on educational grants, working on university training programs. I directed the Kansas Deaf-Blind Project, and now I work at the National Center on Deaf-Blindness. So now that is my what. My what is that I work at the National Center on Deaf-Blindness, where every day we try to work to improve services, results, and quality of life for children and youth who are deaf-blind. So because deaf-blindness is really the rarest of rare disabilities, the burden falls on the family to educate medical providers, educational providers, and their community about their loved one with deaf-blindness. And every time there's a transition for the child and or the family, the process of educating others starts over again, which can be exhausting and sometimes time-consuming for the families. Their need to advocate truly never stops. So a family-centered approach involves 3 types of family support. And on this slide, there's a diagram that I have Jana Villame from the Arkansas Deaf-Blind Project to thank for sharing with me, that has a triangle in the center, which represents the family. They are the center of it all and the one constant in the child's life. And then around the family, there are 3 circles: family support at the individual level, family engagement at the community level, and finally, family leadership at the state and national level. Each of these levels places different demands on the family member and requires a certain amount of confidence on the part of the family to understand their child, understand the educational system, and understand policy and advocacy. Assessing families' interest in each of these is critical in being an effective provider and requires deliberate support, training, and connection and mentoring. And it's really up to each family to decide what feels right for them and what they want to define as leadership for themselves and their family. In addition to the responsibility of educating others about their child, the family also has a circle of influence moving around them at all times: school, medical, financial, legal, or their rights, and the social network. Again, these are the folks who move in and out of the family and the child's life as the child ages, and the family is responsible for navigating all of these systems, how to connect with them, what they can expect from them, forging a trusting relationship, the language that each of the systems uses, and the list goes on. Finally, compound the visual with the addition of this outer rim of life stages for both the family and the child, the ups and downs or trauma, the life that throws you, and it's even more complex because all the families of individuals with deaf-blindness have to navigate all of this all concurrently at the same time. So you see, something that's unique about families of kids with deaf-blindness is that they have to be intimate caregivers of their children. And for the vast majority of the children, that intimate caregiving runs across the course of the lifetime. Deaf-blindness is one of the lowest incidence disabilities. 90% of the population have additional physical, medical, or cognitive disabilities. Deaf-blindness is described as compoundingly complex and multiplicative, not additive. This means that there's a layering impact of deaf plus blind plus rare, complex needs, including medical, cultural, geographical, financial, etc. We know that just over half of the children on the National Deaf-Blind Child Count are reported as having complex healthcare needs. So for a lot of our families, they ebb and flow through the cycles of grief as a result of the intensity of caregiving and all of the extra responsibilities. As providers, we need to honor the family when they're feeling overwhelmed. And for the families with us today, it's okay to say, I need to wait on that, or I don't feel like I want to manage that right now. So whether you're a professional or a family member, the key really is about building trusting relationships. So let me pause for 1 minute and let each of you think about someone you trust. It could be someone you work with, it could be a family member, it could be a friend, whoever it comes to mind first. Think about it. Think about why you trust them and put your why in the chat pod if you can. Saying lots of good conversation. They tell me the truth, even if it's hard, consistent, steady, reliable, honest, their integrity, long-standing relationships. They know and accept me as is. They don't judge me, and I can be completely vulnerable. They allow me to tell my truth about my situation. Those are all really good comments. And more has come in. Unconditional. My person is always there for me when I need them most, without judgment. No judgment, can relate to my situation, honest and trustworthy, accept me, I trust them, laugh together. Yes, Sharon, I like that, laugh together. They have children who share a similar journey. They understand my emotions. Yes, all these comments are really awesome and important. So when you think about those people that you really feel like you can trust, and you think about what they do to offer you that sense of confidence around trust, it's really powerful to think about how you can bring that sort of similar trust into your work life and into your personal lives when it comes to interacting with the families of kiddos with deaf-blindness. And for the professionals here today, I encourage you, after our time together today, to spend some time really reflecting on, what do I do intentionally to build trust with the families that I work with? And what have I done? And maybe go to some of the families that you do feel like you have trusted relationships with and ask them, what worked? How did you get to the point that you could trust me? Move to the next slide. So here are 10 ways you may want to consider to build trust. As a provider, planning and preparing for the actual interaction that you're going to have with the family ahead of time. Be really cautious about gathering needed background information to provide context for the interaction. Establish confidentiality with them. Just let them know that whatever's shared won't leave the room. Listen carefully, ask clarifying questions, connect with them in a really an honest, earnest way. You don't have to be the one that knows everything in the room, and that authentic connection will resonate. Validate what you hear. Be open about who you are and what you do. Ask for permission to coach. Is this a time that you like my advice? And keep your commitments at the end of the conversation. What you tell them you're going to do, just make sure to really do. The Center for Creative Leadership says that active listening skills include paying attention, withholding judgment, reflecting, clarifying, summarizing, and sharing. And when we actually actively listen, that helps with determining needs, which at the outset of the training, I hinted at the fact that this starts with identifying the person's why. Because when a family is clear about the needs of not only their child, but also the needs of their family and themselves, they are then better able to navigate systems to get the support that they desire. So what's challenging about this for families of kids with complex needs? The truth is, as soon as they learn one system and get settled in, they have to switch. So it's never-ending learning and preparing, which takes time and resources and can sometimes feel exhausting. So because our most basic need in life is for relationships, which is connection, that's something that we all share, whether you have a child that's deaf-blind, whether you're a provider, whether you're just an interested sibling or family member, whoever's on the call today. Really, our most basic need in life is for relationships and connection. Connection to our children, our spouse or life partner, extended family and friends, providers, in other words, resources to learn about your child's needs, your community, and really, especially for families of kids with deaf-blindness, because of the uniqueness, other parents and families. As I saw Neelam put in the chat at the onset about connection and trust, really connecting to other parents who can understand your story is really so important. So let's pause for a moment and ask, what does family engagement mean to you? So I'm going to let you guys take a minute or two to think and reflect and put in the chat, when I say family engagement, what does that really mean to you? Everyone present and engaged, participating, including families at all time, working as a team, involving all family members, being together, human connection, all family members being involved with each other. Needs of child are met, family then, whoop, it flipped too fast for me. Trustworthy resources for that team. It has always meant finding a way for the parents to be comfortable with me and building trust. Yes, it's essential. And that's something that you guys can continue to think about when you say family engagement or someone's describing family engagement. What does that mean to you? Activities for everyone. It's great. So here's what other organizations and research says about what family engagement means. The Child Welfare and Information Gateway says that family engagement is the process used to build genuine relationships with families, and the relationship with families support the overall family well-being and the children's healthy development, so both. And that when families are engaged, partnerships are created that have a common focus, helping children grow and thrive. And the National Association, for Family, School, and Community Engagement says the family engagement definition that they developed in 2010 says that family engagement is a shared responsibility that requires a commitment to reaching out to engage families in meaningful ways, and that the family engagement is continuous across the child's life, and that effective family engagement cuts across and reinforces learning in multiple settings. They go further in to define high impact family engagement is building personal relationships, respect, and mutual understanding with families, sharing data, modeling effective teaching practices, listening to families, incorporating content from families' home cultures, which as our country gets more and more diverse, which is wonderful, really taking time to understand the family's culture and background, it will be really significant in forging and building trust. And then aligning family engagement activities with the school improvement goals. So then the national, this ASCD is the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development. And they say that we need to understand the difference between family involvement and family engagement. Involvement implies doing to, and engagement implies doing with. So again, as you're thinking about what active, true family engagement means, it harkens to what a lot of you guys said in the comments earlier when I said, what does family engagement mean to you? And I heard Patty McGowan or saw her put in the chat that she said, including families in everything. That really, truly is what authentic family engagement, at least for me, is. Because the goal of family engagement is not to serve clients, but to truly gain partners in your work and alongside everything that you do. So almost all the research also says that family engagement can produce even better results for students, for families, for schools, and for their communities. And that effective family engagement requires the school to develop a relationship building process focused truly on listening, the cornerstone of it all. So really, wait, what? You've just told me a million things, Megan. What really is family engagement? And for each of you, that truly is for you to decide. But Forenza says that family engagement is bridging the gap between a family's desire to improve the quality of life for their children and the skills to do so. So when you think about that and you think about, well, then how can I truly do effective family engagement of families of individuals with deaf-blindness? It can start with increasing family awareness about deaf-blindness and its educational impact on learning, increasing a family's ability to advocate for themselves and their child through telling their story, which is what we get to have a treat of listening to the two moms tonight do, connecting families with other families who have kids like theirs, and families building skills in creating relationships with others who play key roles in making change for children with dual sensory impairments and other disabilities. Meet the families where they are, not where you want them to be. And that's critical because teachers and providers typically have bleeding hearts and want to fix everything for every parent, feel the need to go in and truly be the expert, when really the most important thing to do is to just stop, pause, and take a minute to listen to the family, because it not only builds trust, but allows you to understand what's important to a family and how to move forward. Someone once said to me, you know, you're an effective TA provider if you breathe through your nose and not your mouth. Because if you're breathing through your nose and not your mouth, that means your mouth is closed to be truly listening to the family. Because in order to be relatable, you need to make the parent realize it's truly not about you and your own needs. Watch your body language, especially eye contact. It matters. And understanding the difference between being stuck and being overwhelmed is really critical. Is the family stuck because they haven't been provided the resource and the information that they need? Or are they just truly overwhelmed and you need to put on the brakes, pause, and help them catch up with the information that you've already provided them and give them more support to be ready to move on for more? And then helping to find one first step or a few first steps will be really critical in building their trust, the accountability, and of them feeling like they're successful and that they can move on to take more. Slow and steady wins the race. You need to think about frequency and mode of communication after each interaction. Ask the family, when would you like me to circle back with you? And how would you like me to connect with you to share the follow-up resources and connections that I promised you? Practice healthy boundaries. I have a true story that I knew I had gone too far into the TA that I was providing when I was working for the Kansas Deaf-Blind Project, because I found myself between 9 and 10 o'clock p.m. in a family's house helping get a child to bed who just couldn't get to sleep at night. And I thought, wow, I can't be doing that for all 100 plus children on the state child count. I need to think about other ways to provide support to this family to help them be in a place that they can be successful with a bedtime routine. Be realistic and honest about your skills and knowledge. Don't be afraid to say you don't know, but that you'll check and get back with them. Because if you're vulnerable and say you don't have all the answers, it will allow them to be vulnerable back and say they don't either. Be culturally respectful and responsive with your practices. Let them know it's okay to not be okay, and that it's even more awesome to celebrate every small victory and win that they achieve as a family. Give them permission to say no, thank you. And intermittent check-ins show that you're still around and that you truly do care about the family. So the South Dakota Department of Human Services has actually created a guide called Supporting Real Lives Across the Lifespan, which was created based on information that comes out of work from the University of Missouri, Kansas City, and their Charting the Life course Nexus. In order to help the mothers who have so generously and bravely agreed to share their lived journey with you today prepare their stories, we use two tools from this guide. The first one is called the Life Trajectory Planning Tool, and it's intended to help individuals and families think about past life experiences and how those inform hopes and visions moving forward. And then the second piece here that you're seeing is the Life Trajectory Exploring form that can be used to help individuals, families, or even teams reflect on where life has led them and where they hope to go in creating a good life or next steps for an individual with deaf-blindness, or frankly, any human being. It could be for anyone. You could use it in your own planning. So these are the two tools that we shared and that they partially use to help think and reflect about their life. I encourage the attendees that are here today to think about how you can use these on an individual, family, or even organizational level in thinking about needs, hopes, and planning, because sometimes families are understandably so focused on the needs of their child that they forget to think about their own needs. And sometimes families don't know what they want for the future, but they do know what they don't want. So starting a conversation around what's not working sometimes can help lead to a conversation about what could work and what the hopes and dreams could be. So now that I've queued you up in terms of thinking about active listening, the importance of empowering families to tell their story, and starting with the families where they are, we're going to shift to now the best part of tonight, where we're going to talk about the power of telling your story. So let's listen to Kristen and Jenny, but Kristen is going to go first, share their journeys and what's helped them along the way. And Miss Jenny, when you're ready, and Miss Kristen, when you're ready for me to advance your slides, just say next slide, Megan, and I'll move it forward. So without further ado, we're going to let Kristen go first.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen Knutson. I live in Sioux Falls with my husband, Brian, and 3 kids, Kayla, 22, Sarah, 20, and Andrew, 18. Andrew has blessed all of our lives with his love of life and caring spirit. He's been to hell and back with all the medical issues he's been dealt in his life. Yet every morning he wakes up happy and ready to take on the day. He has always had a close relationship with his sisters. They are his biggest cheerleaders, along with my husband and I. Andrew was born in 2004 in Sioux Falls, and we knew something was wrong right away because he had breathing difficulties. Over the next few days, as other medical problems were discovered, my husband, through research, concluded that Charge syndrome was likely his diagnosis. In 2004, there was no test to determine this diagnosis definitively. When discussing this with the perinatologist taking care of Andrew, his response was, well, you don't want it to be Charge because that's mental retardation. I was so overwhelmed with all I had learned that was complex about Andrew. Those words were absolutely crushing. Charge is an acronym for coloboma of the eye, heart defects, atresia of the choanae, restriction of growth, and lastly, ear abnormalities and deafness. The first few years of life for many with Charge can be life-threatening. While still in the NICU, we found out that Andrew had breathing difficulties. He was unable to suck and swallow safely, and it was discovered that he had severe to profound hearing loss and colobomas in the peripheral vision of both eyes. Andrew was born with a bony mass in one side of his nose. This requires immediate attention due to babies being nasal breathers. He was transferred to Minneapolis Children's Hospital to address his breathing challenges. They opened his atresia in his nostril, and after a short stay, we went home. After 2 weeks, we went back for a follow-up, and Andrew's breathing at that point was noisy on both inspiration and expiration. We found out at that follow-up that a tracheostomy was going to be placed. A trach means for a family to be able to come home with your child, you have to take a trach training class. And as parents, you need to learn how to care for the trach and how to replace it if it's removed. A trach requires several pieces of medical equipment for care, such as a suction machine and an oximeter to monitor oxygen and his heart rate. We were required to have nurses at night to watch him while he slept. We had nurses in our home for almost 15 years. After the trach was placed, we discovered Cincinnati Children's Hospital. We began our doctoring in Cincinnati due to the airway team, but also the other specialists that Andrew needed. Our trips to Ohio became our only vacation we took, even though it was not much of a vacation for Andrew. During this week of appointments, we would tie in some fun activities, so his sisters felt like it was a vacation. Andrew has been through countless procedures on his airway. The most complex was placing rib grafts in his airway to make it stable and having his tongue reduced. He's had a G-tube placed for safe feeding. He's had a cochlear implant surgery, but that's not worked well for him. The implant stimulates his facial nerves, so we had to turn some electrodes off and turn the sound way down, so it's of little benefit for him. He's had a surgery on his eyes for a lazy eye, and he's been through many feeding studies as well as sleep studies. In the beginning, we had to travel to Cincinnati every few months and eventually every 6 months. The older he became, the more he dreaded our trips to Ohio. Once he even asked me, why would anyone want to live in Ohio? You can switch the slide, Megan. As a baby, we were involved with Birth to Three, where he received physical, occupational, and speech therapy. He received services from the School for the Deaf to help him and us begin to learn sign language. Like many children with charge, Andrew had balance issues due to vestibular dysfunction. He was delayed in head control, sitting, and walking. We had great therapists that came into the home and worked with Andrew and myself. As a parent, it's exhausting trying to wear all hats well. His medical needs, of course, were most important. And with the time left in the day, I had to work on sign language, fine and gross motor skills, and speech. It's easy to feel like you never get enough done in a day. As Andrew grew, we became aware of sensory needs. His therapist worked on them in school, and we added extra therapy outside of school. He did occupational therapy at Lifescapes, where they introduced him to different swings and other forms of therapy to challenge his sensory system. As he outgrew these therapies, we added horse therapy, and he currently rides once a week. He loves it. Andrew started Special Olympics after his trach was removed around 5th grade. He participates in bowling, basketball, and track. He loves being involved with this organization because he gets to spend time with his friends. And it's equally wonderful for me because I spend time with the other moms visiting about life. No one understands what moms of special needs children go through like other moms. When Andrew was ready for kindergarten, the H1N1 virus was going around, and his doctors were concerned about him going to school. He spent that year schooling at home with his interpreter. He would put on his backpack at the top of the steps, and before walking down, he'd say, "Goodbye, Mom, I'm going to school." We had a schoolroom set up in the basement for him. Before starting 1st grade, we had a discussion with the school about Andrew needing a nurse to attend with him. The school wanted his interpreter to call the school nurse when she was needed. With the help of Parent Connections, we put together information from all sides. Parent Connections talked to doctors, the school staff, nurses, and us as parents to get everyone's opinion on Andrew's safety in school. If the trach came out, there was no time to wait for someone to come help. The school decided the best option was to have a nurse with him at all times. We were thankful to be able to drop him off at school and feel he was safe. The nurse also did his G-tube feedings at lunch. He's still close with that nurse who was with him during those elementary years. Andrew has attended public school from the beginning. When he was ready for kindergarten, we did have a school for the deaf, but due to his medical needs, they were not equipped to have him as a student. He's always had an interpreter with him. He's been blessed to have the same interpreter since kindergarten, Teacher Sarah. She's lovingly referred to as Teacher Sarah because Andrew has a sister, Sarah. It was his way of differentiating between the two. Andrew and Sarah have a close relationship because they've been together for years. Sarah's taken on more than an interpreting role with Andrew. She recognizes if he needs more explanation on a subject or if a subject needs to be adapted. She also notices when he needs a sensory break in the day. Andrew is one of only a few who have hearing loss in his school district. He's had many wonderful experiences with teachers who supported him in his hearing loss. He's learned how to communicate with his teachers if Teacher Sarah's not around. Teacher Sarah, she loves and cares for Andrew and all of his needs while constantly helping him gain more and more independence. She's been there to celebrate birthdays, winter formals, Special Olympics, best buddies, and other special events in his life. We consider Teacher Sarah to be part of our family. We're eternally grateful for all she's done to support Andrew throughout school. We just experienced his final IEP meeting, and all the teachers had amazing things to say about him. The vice principal said, "I think it benefits me more knowing him than him knowing me." This was the first time I've cried in an IEP meeting. Andrew turned 18 in February, so we went through the process of getting guardianship and conservatorship for him. We're beginning the process of thinking about the next moves after high school. There's a few different options that work on independence and job training skills. His case manager, Teacher Sarah, Andrew, and myself will go to these places and figure out the best option for him. Throughout school, Andrew was the only deaf child. There were other kids with hearing loss, but Andrew is the only one who uses ASL as his primary language. Despite this fact, he's never struggled to make friends. He's currently a junior in high school and has many wonderful friends. He's a part of the Best Buddies program, and this has been an amazing experience for him. ASL is a language provided at our high school. He has a few buddies that have taken several ASL classes, and so they are able to converse and sign with him. This is so special for him because he can be independent from myself or teacher Sarah during these Best Buddy activities because they can interpret for him. His main buddy, Rachel, even asked him to winter formal his freshman year. She just asked him to go to prom with her, and he is beyond excited. He also has a buddy, Landon, whose mom is Andrew's speech therapist at school. And when Landon became one of Andrew's buddies, he couldn't believe that Landon would want to be his friend. Andrew's never had a buddy who was a boy, and Landon and Rachel both play basketball, and Andrew was their #1 fan. He was either at their games cheering for them or watching them play their away games on YouTube. He also has 2 other buddies, Izzy and Lillian, who are wonderful friends. He has also many amazing friends who have special needs. They're all hearing, but he's just one of the gang. They like hanging out together and watching movies and playing games. Andrew and I hosted his group of friends for a Christmas party. We had 13 kids here and several moms. The kids made pizzas, decorated gingerbread houses and cookies. It was wonderful for them to have casual times together to sit and visit and laugh about life. They care about each other and love spending time together. Andrew's blessed to have a wonderful group of friends, and I'm equally blessed to have their moms as my friends. When Andrew was born in 2004, as they say, we arrived in Holland, not Italy. Our new normal was stressful and challenging, but we found out that it was beautiful in Holland. As a family, we've learned how to lean on each other to survive all the twists and turns that our journey has taken. Through the support of a village of doctors, nurses, therapists, teachers, and teacher Sarah, today Andrew can breathe without a trach, eat on his own, and he's a well-adjusted junior in high school. Andrew's sisters, along with my husband and I, are some of his biggest fans. We love sharing all of his special moments, like Special Olympics or winter formal. We feel we're blessed to have an amazing family. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Kristen. This is the 3rd time I've listened to your story as we prepared, and each time I just love it even more. So thank you for being honest and reflective in what you had to share with the group about your journey. Okay, Miss Jenny Miller, you're up next.
All right. I have practiced this already with others, and every single time I have to start with the same disclaimer that I am so nervous about speaking in front of others. It makes me feel a little better. Just put that out there for everyone first before I start. Hi, my name is Jenny. My husband Paul and I have 4 children. Our oldest son Blake is 19. He graduated high school in 2021. During high school, he started working for a local business that refurbishes used video game systems. And he continued to work there after high school, and worked there about 3 years total before he moved in February to Michigan. In Michigan, he rooms with a high school friend, and he's hoping to find a job as an overnight stocker in a store for now, although he's currently on hiatus from working, and he and his friend are on a cruise down around the Dominican Republic with his friend's family. And we're so grateful to his friend's family for being such a good support for him out in Michigan. Our second oldest son, Bennett, is 15 and taking some honors classes in his freshman year of high school this year. He enjoys participating in a group for Christian teens, and he's been growing in his faith a lot this year. He plays video games, goes hunting, and reads a lot. Our third son, Brody, is a major Lego enthusiast. He's 13 years old and is an 8th grader who's looking forward to taking driver's ed this summer after he turns 14. We live in a state where they have a pretty low driving age. Brody's super organized, very responsible, a reader, and a thinker. And last but not least, we have our little Spitfire, our daughter, Bailey. Bailey is 12. In a family with 3 introverted boys, Bailey is our only extroverted child, and she loves to talk. Bailey enjoys math, playing basketball, watching football, and TikTok. All 4 of our kids have Usher syndrome type 2A, and therefore all 4 of our kids fall into the deaf-blind category. And yet, deaf-blindness doesn't quite fit all of them. Or should I say, they don't fit into the box of what I assumed that deaf-blindness was. Many of you know this, but for those that don't, Usher syndrome is a rare condition that's one of the leading causes of deaf-blindness. It affects hearing and vision, and sometimes balance. There are 3 different types and subcategories within each type. In my children, as with many, type 2A presented as a moderate to severe hearing loss at birth and vision loss beginning later in life. The vision loss looks like night blindness and a loss of periphery vision, aka tunnel vision. In 2018, a series of small events led us to seek answers from the eye doctor about why Bennett kept running into things at night. As I described what was going on, our eye doctor in Sioux Falls just knew what it was. Of course, the actual diagnosis was not that simple. And after months of appointments and genetic testing, it was confirmed that Bennett had Usher syndrome. Within a month, we knew that our other 3 kids all had it too, and that Paul and I are both carriers. There was a huge grieving process for us as a family at first, but we have come a long way emotionally since then. I'd like to share a little bit about what an evening could look like in the Miller household before Blake moved out, to give you a glimpse into how Usher syndrome affects our lives. To set the scene, first Paul and I got done working for the day, and we finished dinner as a family. Blake gets home from his job. We talk about his day and his upcoming move. He decided to move without his car for now because his car wasn't in great shape. And also, he's not super comfortable driving, despite the fact that his vision is technically and legally okay for it. But he plans to try using public transportation, ride shares, and walking to get to where he needs to go. As we're talking, he prepares food for himself, and I see him scanning to find items that get lost in his periphery. When he's finished, he heads downstairs to his room, turning on every light in front of him, which he'll then leave on all night in order to find his way around the house in the dark. When I go sit in my chair in the living room, Bennett walks by to go to the bathroom. He trips over an errant toy that was left out from my home daycare, and when I say, "Are you okay?" he startles because he didn't even see me sitting right next to him when he walked by me. We talk briefly, then he fumbles in the bathroom for the light switch before going about his business. Bennett has significant night blindness and only about 20 degrees of central vision remaining. Out of our 4 kids, he's the only one who is truly low vision at this stage in his life. After Bennett returns to his room, Brody comes upstairs to say goodnight. His eyes feel dry, so he uses some allergy eye drops to moisten them. Brody has spent about an hour alone in his room in the dark today, watching a video with his phone on a dim setting, because between the bright lighting at school and the sunny day, his eyes are fatigued and his mood is irritable. Brody has photophobia, which causes him anxiety at times, but he's learned to manage it by finding ways to rest his overworked eyes and his sensitive soul. We worked very hard for many years to help Brody come to this level of self-awareness so he can identify his needs and make sure that they're met. He also mentions in passing that he bumped into a piece of furniture in the dark last night. And my mom's heart drops as I reassure him that it's okay and to be expected for someone with Ushers. One of the hardest things I do as an Ush mom is hide most of my own fears as I try to be a calm, reassuring person for my children to express their fears to. After Brody goes to bed, I give Bailey a hug and tuck her in on the little couch in our master bedroom where she sleeps every night. I am embarrassed to admit this. She's always preferred sleeping close to mom and dad, but she has not been able to bring herself to sleep in her own room by herself since 2018, when our family received the Usher's diagnosis. My daughter knows that she will someday go blind, and I think she's afraid to be alone in the dark. As a parent, I feel stunningly helpless when it comes to guiding her and overcoming these fears. So we choose to nurture her through it and pray that this foundation of loving relationships and nurturance will help her when she is ready to deal with her fear someday. It's the not knowing that eats at me the most sometimes. Their hearing loss is a known entity. It's a tricky little burden sometimes, but overall it's something that they're used to and we're used to and know how to deal with. The blindness, though, it's scarier sometimes because it is still so unknown to them and to us. And we have no way of knowing when and how it will come on with each of our children. Just that it will. As I worked on what I would share with you here today, the word fear kept coming to mind. And that made me so mad. I do not want us to live lives that are full of fear. And I refuse to raise children who are afraid of the world. But at the same time, I have to admit that raising deafblind children can be scary for me. Every day, we just continue to show up for our kids and do our best. If there is one thing I could share above all else with professionals that work with my family, it would be this. Emotions are at the heart of everything we do. In particular, I mean the two basic human emotions of love and fear. Every decision we make, every path we choose for our children, every battle we fight, when you see us happy or sad or angry, all those things boil down to either our love for our children or our fear for them in their future, or both. In our family, we have to work hard every single day to make sure that love wins over fear. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jenny. I thank you for your honesty, and I thank you for still letting your daughter stay in bed with you, because if that's what she needs, then that's what she needs. So really and truly, on behalf of everyone here with us today, I want to thank both of you guys. Your humility, honesty, and vulnerability is so important in allowing providers to deepen their understanding of what it's like to raise a child or children, in your case, Jenny, with deaf-blindness. And I'm confident that you've inspired other families here to think about writing and telling their own stories. So to both of you, I want you to know you're wonderful advocates and parents. So with the remaining time that we have with the group today, we thought we could open it up to questions and answers for Jenny or for Kristen. They've said they would be happy to take your questions. So folks can either come on webcam, if that's okay with you, Amy, or unmute their phone lines and ask, or you can put your question in the chat pod, whatever would make everybody most comfortable. Either way, we'll do it.
This is Neelam. I just wanted to tell Jenny, I want to hug you. That's all.
That's so sweet. I don't know if everybody heard Neelam, but she said she just wants to hug Jenny. So you could do a virtual hug. How about that, Neelam?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. A virtual hug to each one of you. Thank you for organizing. Kristen, thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Yeah, Penny Eccles.
Thank you both for sharing. My question, I'm just being so selfish right now. Tell us about real self-care and what that looks like for you. And I'm not talking about like eating chocolate or taking bubble baths. You know, my daughter is 7, so I'm newer in the journey, but how do you ever get to all the scheduled doctor's appointments? How do you find time to do that and really like truly take care of your body?
Kristen, do you want to try to tackle this one?
Sure. Well, you know, yeah, of course, organization is important, but I started a while ago. Every morning I get up and exercise because I feel like it's the only thing I do that's only for me, for taking care of me. And in fact, Andrew exercises with me every morning because it kind of wakes up his sensory system and gets him ready for the school day. So we get up early in order to incorporate that in his day. And then I have to say, you know, beyond that, it's just connecting with other moms who understand what you've been through. And, you know, like I say, there's no other moms in Andrew's school that have charge, but lots of Down syndrome and things. But, you know, we just enjoy being together and laughing about things we've been through or supporting each other during different times. So
Jenny, would you like to add anything?
No, I'm not a good one to answer about self-care. I haven't figured that out myself, and I've been a mom for 19, almost 20 years now.
Well, you do have 4 that you're handling at once, so you're a champ, man. That's a lot of kids. I see Julie's hand is up. Julie, do you want to ask a question?
Some of it's just a comment because I have worked with both of the moms that talked, and it's inspirational as a teacher professional to hear them share their story, and especially the parts that are difficult, because you're in an IEP meeting with the parent and you don't hear their struggles all the time, not to that full of an extent. So both moms, I got to learn a lot of new things about just the upbringing of their kids. And I really liked what Jenny said, that a lot of times you're reacting to either love or fear for your child, yourself, and just us keeping that in mind. We're on the professional eyesight of how can we do things educationally for the kids. But yeah, it comes down to sometimes survival mode for you guys, and we just can keep that in mind. So thank you both, though, for sharing. I love to hear your stories.
Thanks for that, Julie. I see that Teresa Baldry put in the chat, in a rural state, have you been able to connect with other parents whose children have a similar medical condition, and has it mattered? So Jenny, do you want to go first, and then Kristen?
It's our understanding that there are no other kids in South Dakota with Usher syndrome. So our 4 are the 4 kids that are identified on the official Usher syndrome logs or whatever. So no, I know Neelam from things online. I connect with people online, but in person in South Dakota, I don't know anyone personally, except adults with Usher syndrome.
How about you, Kristen?
So we don't have a lot of kids with charge. I know of about a handful of kids, and we see them on occasion through deaf events and things like that Andrew and I attend. Yeah, I think it's nice to see nobody with charge is his age. So for him, it doesn't matter. A friend is a friend, and he doesn't really care if they have charge or Down syndrome.
Well, and Kristen, this is Megan speaking. I also know Kristen serves sort of an interesting role in that she's a volunteer for the Charge Syndrome Foundation as a Charge State Family Liaison. And so I know that you do a lot of connecting with other families across the country through the Charge Syndrome Foundation as well. Do you want to speak to that?
So yeah, I'm a part of that. And, I've been on a few, just one call so far for the Western states. The region that I'm with is California, Nevada. So, a little different than those areas, because we don't have a ton of kids, where like in California, they have several liaisons because there's so many kids with charge. But yeah, we're trying to do phone calls for the region where parents can get on and ask questions. And we're trying to kind of hone down those calls so that we can address, certain needs, because certainly through your journey, you have different needs at different points in your life. In the beginning, it's survival and all kinds of medical, and then you kind of move into other things. But so yeah, it's been fun. I enjoy getting to meet families face to face. Like I say, we don't have a lot of families here, but yeah, it's definitely a passion. I feel like when you've been through all that we've been through, I think God just directed me that this was the right thing to do, was to help other families.
That's great. And I see Sharon's got her hand up, and then we'll take your question next after. Okay, go Sharon.
Okay, I'm Sharon Jones. I'm with South Dakota School for the Deaf, just so you know who I'm representing here too. But so I was just curious, you had mentioned about sign language. And I, as one of the things we do at SDSD is provide sign classes and trying to help facilitate parents learning sign language, but I also think it's an area that we could improve. And so I would just like your feedback on what we could do better there. And then also, did you guys get a consultant from SDSD, and did that help you at all in your journey? I'm just kind of curious.
Can I go first?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, we had a consultant from SDSD from the time that our oldest was an infant. Like, he was aided by 3 months old, I think. And our first consultant was Kim Wadsworth. And having her in our home when we were first learning everything changed the whole ball game. Like, the things that we learned from her just changed everything for us. And now our consultant is Jody Schneider, and she is amazing also. We've had a number of them over the years, but yeah, all the services that we have had, and the vision services have been newer to us, but those have been amazing as well from the School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. So we have nothing but good things to say about the service providers that we've been in contact with.
That's good to hear.
Yeah,
I'm
and
new to this role, but I was a sign language interpreter in the school district before working for SU.
Oh, cool.
I was just going to say, we also had Kim, and Andrew just loved working with her. And it was amazing to get that early help to start learning right away. And it helped his sisters too. So.
Did you
Great,
guys have any advice about sign classes and how we could improve that?
I haven't been to a sign class, but yeah, I'm happy to help if you have, questions or anything.
We went to sign classes just a few years ago as a family. So when our oldest was young, we learned some sign, and I would say that we did basically what you would consider baby signs with our kids. But nobody was fully into ASL. And then Bennett started demonstrating interest after he went to USH this camp in New York in 2019. And so we went as a family that year or the following year, I don't remember, with COVID and everything. And then he is taking ASL in school too now. So he's got a lot of interest in it. So.
Thank you.
So I also see that Lana, I think, had come on camera to ask a question. Do you have a question for everybody?
I do. I had put it in the chat because I wasn't sure if I'd get a chance to ask a question. My question is to Kristen. I was very interested in the state liaison that you are for charge families. And I'm curious how you get their contact information, and like, do you reach out to them then, or they reach out to you?
Well, the kids that I know about, I reach out to them. And then, like, Amy is able to share contacts with me, and she knows she has the permission to share my contact with anybody she knows of. Yeah, it's kind of just a shared, the foundation knows certain people. So yeah, if
So
they
then, so did you reach out to our the North Dakota Dual Sensory Project then?
I did reach out to North Dakota because there's no liaison for North Dakota. And I said that I was willing to help with that if anybody needed I forget exactly who I talked to, but they kind of thought that at this time they didn't really have anything. But yeah, I'm happy to share my information, and you can share it with anybody that you know of. You know, because North Dakota, I might cross paths with, if somebody's traveling or something. But yeah, I would love to connect with anybody in that area.
Oh, okay. Somebody put in the chat the list of state liaisons. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I also see, to add to your thinking, Lana, that Teresa Baldry from Montana, she says, as part of the Montana Deaf-Blind Project, I'm wondering about connecting rural families in neighboring states, because they have a similar issue where they have a smaller child count and a lot of families that have kids with interesting and kind of really rare syndrome. So that could be a next step connection for you guys as well. Teresa, did you want to add anything to that?
Nope, but just thanks, ladies, for your time and for sharing stories tonight. It was very meaningful. It's great to hear your stories. Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is Megan speaking. I know Teresa would be happy to hear from you guys. So if you want Teresa's contact information, I'm happy to give it to you, or she can put it in the chat if you feel so inclined, Teresa.
Yeah, I'll drop it. I'll drop it in the chat. And Amy has my connection information too, because the states are all connected. But for each of you, I know a family that is similar and that doesn't have that connection. And so I'm just thinking maybe because we are these rural states that we need to think about that connecting with someone else who knows your story.
Yeah, this is Megan. It really matters, I think. And Neelam put in the chat, as parents without significant local parents, wait, hold on. What are the needs you have felt in your heart? And what kind of state and national resources did your family or does your family feel like they need for community connection?
Yeah, sorry, my mind was not in right place. So this question came fragmented. So what I meant was that without having enough local parents, community support, what kind of a state and national resources your family has felt you will need and benefit from?
So who wants to go first? Jenny, how about you? You're unmuted. I'm taking that as a sign.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head that we don't have, but Neelam, I'm excited that we're gonna maybe bring the kids down to Texas to the Usher Syndrome Coalition conference this summer. So maybe we'll get to make some connections there and meet some people that we've met online and stuff.
I am excited. I'm planning to be there. So looking forward to that.
Oh, good. We can hug in person.
Yes, we can.
Just
a few months.
That's so good. And there's been some conversation in the chat too, where Nancy O'Donnell has put in that the Usher Syndrome Coalition has a growing group of ambassadors who are similar in role to the state liaisons. And she put the link to that information. And they also connect families. So feel free to reach out to her. And she put her email. So Nancy, do you want to provide any additional information?
This is Nancy speaking, and I just am thrilled, Jenny, to hear your story since I work for the Usher Syndrome Coalition. And Bennett was amazing at camp. We all still talk about him. And I just think I want to let you all know too that I wear a couple of hats. I am working with the National Center on Deaf-Blindness to develop a mentoring program for kids with Usher syndrome. We're going to start small with the Usher community, develop a mentoring program, and then we'll be recruiting mentees because we know how important it is to have someone, especially when you're in a rare disease community, as it's called in the medical world, to find someone like you, a successful older person. So we have lots of initiatives. I'm thrilled that you'll be coming to the conference, Jenny. I'll see you down there as well.
Yeah, I look forward to meeting you.
Yeah. Yeah, so thanks. These were both great presentations. Thank you, Kristen, as well.
I'm sensing a lot of in-person hugging coming on in the months ahead. Am I right? I also know, and Patty McGowan is here as well from the National Family Association for Deaf-Blind, and NFADB has NFADB affiliates and NFADB ambassadors that are additional connections that I think folks might be interested in hearing about. Patty, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but do you want to tell people about those as well? Because it may be more connections for families here tonight, as well as some of the providers.
Yes, Megan. Hi, everyone. This is Patty McGowan. First, I just want to say thank you, Kristen and Jenny. Powerful stories and sharing, and they come from the heart. And first and foremost, as a fellow mom, I have to validate the unknown is the worst. And so we constantly just have to plan and prepare and for the worst, and just embrace this really very cool journey that we are given and pay it forward. I think as Kristen was saying to other families. I am the current president of the National Family Association for Deaf-Blind, known as NFADB. And although we are non-etiology specific, we certainly have a lot of families with children and loved ones, both with Charge and Usher syndrome. And, really as a national organizations for families of individuals who are deaf-blind across the lifespan, we have a lot of purposes that we all share, regardless of abilities, etiologies, and age, actually. And advocacy, where not only we want to advocate for our own child or loved one, but also on a local, state, and national level. And we advocate whether it's medical issues and or education issues. And then after education, it's a whole new ballgame with that adult life, which my son is 26. So, it's a whole different journey. And, we continue to learn and help one another as families, and especially families that have been ahead of us, paving the way. So to hear their stories and what agencies and services worked for them, what didn't work for them, equally important. Also, we'd love to foster the family relationships. Neelam is also on NFADB's board. And so, the connection, it really is a tight, well, supportive community. So, the relationships that we share as families and as professionals is so important, because when I wrote in the chat, family engagement, we should be included in all levels. That means relationships and professional development and working side by side, because it's so important for us to be able to share our experiences, as well as collaborating with the educators, our medical teams, and our community, those that, are going to help support our loved ones through this adult life. The partnerships, as this came out, I saw it, whether it was the Usher Blue Book and through our family engagement. So it was so nice to have this open invitation. I live in Pennsylvania. So, again, right away, we shared this information. And so that's so important to get. Doesn't matter really what state we're all from, but just to have that opportunity. So providing information and resources to families all the time. We just never know when we need it, and it's good to come together and offer training opportunities. I've worked with Mag and Cody for so long now, and I still learn something new today. So we never stop learning. And not only can I apply it to my own family and my child, but I will pay it forward to another family. So the National Family Association for Deaf-Blind, easy website, www.nfadb.org. When you have some free time, and know that you are welcome. So thanks, Megan.
Yeah, sure. So does anybody have any additional questions for any of the folks here today, for Kristen or Jenny or even Amy, about the project and the services? And I also know Penny's here from the Charge Syndrome Foundation, and I want to just make sure that everybody saw that she put her email in the chat as well, so that if you want to follow up with the Charge State Family Liaison Program or any of the services that Charge has available, they have a pretty robust family assistance program. So if you're a provider or a family member or support somebody with Charge on the call, it's a great connection to have if the family needs assistance with travel expenses for medical appointments, those types of things. They have that as well. So I don't think, Amy, there's anybody else raising their hand or asking a question. And I know in the chat that you've put the survey link. So if folks want to open that up and fill out Amy's survey for her so that she can tell the federal government that this was high quality, relevant, and useful to hear Miss Kristen and Jenny speak and talk about their shared and lived experiences. I know she'd really appreciate your input. So we'll give some time for that. But Amy, do you have any additional closing comments other than I would want to say to Kristen? I hope that in your son's adult life that another teacher, Sarah, comes along. And I'm sure that this change with your last IEP and him graduating fairly soon, I have no doubt that with your family's tireless planning, he'll have a smooth transition to adult life. And I wish you the best of luck with that. And Jenny, I know you're going through big changes with your son moving away from the nest. So keep your other daughter in bed with you as long as you can, because she might fly the coop sometime soon as well. But you guys have inspired me to try harder and keep pushing in my work. And I know you've helped everybody here today. Amy, thoughts?
Just wanted to thank you, Megan, and especially Kristen and Jenny for sharing your stories. I'm going to get teared up now just thinking about it. So thank you. I appreciate it. I've learned a lot from you too, as much as I'm learning this new position. And there's thank yous in the chat as well from Brandy. Thank you. Thank you, Kristen and Jenny, for your honesty and vulnerability in sharing your stories. And there were other thank yous at the beginning too. So yeah. Appreciate your time.
Well, with that, I think we're good to go. Jenny, Kristen, any closing comments other than you're totally relieved that this is over?
I'm so relieved this is done, but thank you to everyone for being so supportive and your kind words. I appreciate it.
Yeah, ditto to that. We appreciate the support and just hope that maybe our story can reach out to somebody and help somebody else, whether it's an educator or parent. So just want to be there for other families and educators.
And medical providers too might be inspired
Well, yeah.
by what you have to say.
Yeah.
A whole host of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Job well done.
Thank you.
Patty had to say. Yes. All right. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. And yeah, great that you all could come.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.